spotted it in the junk shop in Bridport, a roll-top desk. The man said it was early 19th century and oak. I had wanted one, but they were all far too expensive. This one was in bad condition, the roll-top in several pieces, one leg clumsily mended, scorch marks all down one side. It was going for very little money, and I thought I could restore it.
It would be a risk, a challenge, but I had to have it. I paid the man and brought it back to my workroom. At the back of the garage, I began work on it on Christmas Eve.
I removed the roll-top completely and pulled out the drawers. The veneer had lifted almost everywhere. It looked like water damage to me. Both fire and water had clearly taken their toll on this desk. The last drawer was stuck fast. I tried all I could to ease it out gently. In the end, I used brute force. I struck it sharply with the side of my fist, and the drawer flew open to reveal a shallow space underneath. A secret drawer! There was something in there. I reached and took out a small black tin box. Sellotaped to the top of it was a piece of lined notepaper, and written on it in shaky handwriting, "Jim's last letter, received January 25th, 1915, to be buried with me when the time comes. I knew it as I did it, that it was wrong of me to open the box, but curiosity got the better of my scruples. It usually does."
Inside the box there was an envelope. The address read Mrs. J. McPherson, 12 Copy Pieces, Bridport, Dorset. I took out the letter and unfolded it. It was written in pencil and dated at the top, December 26, 1914.
Dearest Connie, I write you in a much happier frame of mind because something wonderful has just happened that I must tell you about at once. We were all standing in our trenches yesterday morning, Christmas morning. It was crisp and quiet all about, a beautiful morning as I've ever seen, as cold and frosty as Christmas morning should be. I should like to be able to tell you that we began it, but the truth, I'm ashamed to say, is that the Fritz began it. First someone saw a white flag waving from the trenches opposite, and then someone called out to us, "Happy Christmas, Tommy! Happy Christmas!" When we got over the surprise of it, some of us shouted back, "Same to you, Fritz! Same to you!" I thought that would be that. We all did. Then one of them was up there in his grey greatcoat waving a white flag. "Don't shoot, lads!" someone shouted, and no one did. Then another Fritz was up on the parapet, and another. "Keep your heads down," I told the men. "It's a trick." But it wasn't.
One of the Germans was waving a bottle above his head. "It's Christmas Day, Tommy. We have schnapps, we have sausage, we meet you, yes?" By this time there were dozens of them walking towards us across no man's land, with not a rifle between them. Little Private Morse up first. "Come on, boys, what are we waiting for?" And then there was no stopping them. I was the officer. I should have stopped them there and then, I suppose, but the truth is that it never even occurred to me I should. All along their line and ours, I could see men walking slowly towards one another, grey coats, khaki coats, meeting in the middle. And I was one of them. I was part of this. In the middle of the war, we were making peace.
You cannot imagine, dearest Connie, my feelings as I looked into the eyes of the Fritz officer who approached me, hands outstretched. "Hans Wolf," he said, gripping my hand warmly and holding it. "I'm from Dusseldorf and I play the cello in an orchestra. Happy Christmas." "Captain Jim Maxson," I replied, "and a happy Christmas to you too. I'm a schoolteacher in Dorset, in the west of England."
"Ah, Dorset," he smiled. "I know this place. I know it very well. We shared my rum ration and his excellent sausage. And we talked. Connie, how we talked. He spoke almost perfect English, but it turned out he had never set foot in Dorset, never even been to England. He had learned all he knew of England from school and from reading books in English. His favourite author was Thomas Hardy, his favourite book, Far from the Madding Crowd. So out there in no man's land we talked of Bathsheba, Gabriel Oak, Sergeant Troy, and Dorset. He had a wife and one son, born just 6 months ago. As I looked around me, all over no man's land, there were huddles of grey and khaki everywhere, smoking, laughing, talking, drinking, and eating. Hans Wolf and I shared what was left of your wonderful Christmas cake, Connie. He thought the marzipan was the best thing he had ever tasted. I agreed. We agreed about almost everything, and he was my enemy. There was never a Christmas party like it, Connie.
Someone, I don't know who, brought out a football. Greycoats had jumped in piles to make goalposts, and the next thing I knew, it was Tommy's against Fritz out in the middle of no man's land. Hans Wolf and I cheered and stamping our feet to keep out the cold much as anything. There was a moment where I realised our breath mingling in the air between us. He saw it too and smiled. Jim McPherson, he said after a while, I think we've resolved this war over a football match. No one dies in a football match. No children become orphans. No wives become widows.
I prefer cricket, I told him. Then we Tommies could be sure of winning, probably. We laughed at that, and together we watched the game. Sad to say, Connie, Fritz won, 2-1. But Hans Wolf generously said that our goal was wider than that, so it wasn't quite fair. The time came, and all too soon, the schnapps, the rum, and the sausage had long since run out. I wished Hans that he would see his family soon, and that I hoped the fighting would end and we could all go home.
I think that is what every soldier wants on both sides, Hansel said. Take care, Jim McPherson. I shall never forget this moment, nor you. He saluted and walked away from me slowly, unwillingly, I felt. He turned to wave just once, and then became one of the hundreds of grey-coated men drifting back towards their trenches. That night, back in our dugout, we heard them singing a carol quite beautifully, actually. It was still not silent night. Our boys gave the rousing chorus of While Shepherds Watched. We exchanged carols for a while, and then we all fell silent. We had our time of peace and goodwill, and that will be a time that I'll treasure for as long as I live.
Dearest Connie, by Christmas time next year, this war will be nothing but a distant and terrible memory. I know from all that happened today just how much both armies long for peace. I hope to be with you again soon. Your loving Jim.
I folded the letter again and slipped it carefully back into its envelope. I kept awake all night. By morning I knew what I had to do. I drove to Bridport, just a few miles away, and asked the boy walking his dog where Copper Beeches was. House number 12 turned out to be nothing but a burnt-out shell. The roof gaping, the windows boarded up. I knocked at the house next door and asked if anyone knew of the whereabouts of Miss McPherson. Oh yes, said an old man in his slippers. He knew her well. A lovely old lady, he told me. A bit muddle-headed, but at her age she was entitled to be, wasn't she? 101 years old. When she was in the house when it had caught fire, and no one really knew how the fire had started. It could well have been the candles that she used. She used candles instead of electricity because she always thought electricity was too expensive. The fireman had got her out just in time. She was in a nursing home now, he told me. Burlington House on Dorchester Road on the other side of town.
I found Burlington House nursing home easily enough. There were baby chairs up in the hallway, and a lighted Christmas tree stood in the corner with lopsided engine on top.
I could see through into the dining room where everyone was wearing a paper hat and singing. The matron had a hat on too, and seemed happy enough to see me. She even offered me a mince pie. She walked me across the corridor. Miss McPherson isn't in with the others today, she told me. She's rather confused, so we thought it would be best if she had a good rest. She has no family, you know, no one visits, so I'm sure she'll be only too pleased to see you. She walked me into the conservatory with potted plants and wicker chairs and left me.
The old lady was sitting in her wheelchair, her hands folded in her lap. She had silverish white hair pinned into a wispy bun. She was gazing out at the garden. "Hello," I said. She turned and looked up at me vacantly. "Happy Christmas, Connie," I went on. "I found this. I think it is yours." As I was speaking, her eyes never left my face. I opened the tin box. At that moment, her eyes lit up with recognition, and her face became flushed with a sudden glow of happiness. I explained about the desk and how I had found it. I don't think she was listening for a while.
Suddenly, she reached out and took my hand.
Her eyes were filled with tears. "You told me you'd come home by Christmas, dearest," she said. "And here you are, the best Christmas present in the world. Come closer, Jim dear. Sit down."
I sat down beside her, and she kissed my cheek. "I read your letters so often, Jim, every day. I wanted to hear your voice in my head. It always made me feel you were with me. And now you are. Now you're back, you can read it to me yourself. Would you do that for me, Jim dear?" "I just wanted to hear your voice again. I'd love that so much, and then perhaps we can have some tea. I've made you a nice Christmas cake. Marzipan all around. I know how much you love marzipan."